Hello dear students. Today I am here to discuss on one of the poems prescribed for BA Ability Enhancement Compulsory Course English under Karnataka University, Dharwad. The poem is To India, My Native Land, written by Henry Derozio. First and foremost, before getting into the poem, it's better to know something about the poet who has written this poem. Henry Derozio was an Indian poet from 19th century. He was also assistant headmaster of Hindu College in Kolkata. He was of Portuguese origin but was born and raised in India. He identified himself as an Indian and was, of course, a nationalist. He is famous for giving birth to the young Bengal movement of that time. You should remember this. Born into an illustrious Anglo-Indian family, he completed his education at the best schools in the country and excelled in academics. He started writing poetry at a young age and soon became a radical thinker. His free thoughts and Western learning attracted many young boys and men, giving rise to a social movement called Bengal Renaissance. Simultaneously, he gained employment in Hindu College. He organized debates, talks, where he and his followers would criticize orthodox religious beliefs and practices of society. His radical views soon got into fight from the college, but his poetic career flourished as his poems were published in leading newspapers. Though he inspired many leaders of that time, he himself died of an illness at a very young age. His legacy still remains and he has been honored many times in his native Bengal. So, the life sketch of Henry Derozio, of course, it makes us to recall very important writers of British literature. It might be W. Yeats or Keats. They all died in a very young age, but the contribution what they have given to the history of English literature is very vast and wide, and still we feel that they are very relevant poems to read. And in that case, we can compare Derozio to all such kind of writers that not of that time. And here I mentioned some of the works written by Henry Derozio. Poems published in 1827, The Harp of India, Songs of the Hindustani Minstrel, The Fakir of Jungira, a metrical tale and other poems, The Faker of Jungira, Torn India, My Native Land, the poetical works of Henry Derozio published in 1907. So let me take you to the poem which is prescribed for your syllabus, To India, My Native Land. And here the poet tries to present India as a deity in ancient times, and she here addressed at the motherland, okay, was as beautiful as goddess. When the poet was writing this poem, India was suffering from British domination. The poet could neither visualize the glory of her past nor her reverence. He wished to collect her lost glory and celebrate it through this poem. And here I brought all the lines of the poem, and first I would like to talk on the first four lines of the poem, and let me recite it first. My country, in thy days of glory past, a beauteous halo circled around thy brow, and worshipped as a deity thou wast. Where is thy glory? Where is the reverence now? And in these lines, a poet tried to present India as a deity. And in ancient times, she was as beautiful as goddess. The poet says, a beauteous halo circled round thy brow. When the poet was writing this poem, India was suffering from British domination. The poet could neither visualize the glory of the past or reverence. Like a chained eagle, she was grounded in such a condition. The poet tried to compose this poem. The poet presents here as a deity, India as a deity, and looks back to ancient history when India was glorious in every field. It might be arts, science, or architecture. It was pride when India was famous for advanced civilizations and rich cultural traditions. Learned men from all over the world visited India to enrich themselves and also their own cultures. The poet refers to that time when India was worshipped worldwide like a goddess. So, here I try to say to you how India was before the Britishers started ruling India. It was much glorified. Each and every corner you can see the happiness, and it's filled with many scholars, arts and science and architecture was in boom. But after the independence, so after the entry of the Britishers, what was the condition of India? And here in this image, you can find out, India's image, and that tries to, tries to draw the ropes image, and which is held by Britishers in their hand, and how flying bird is chained by these people, and how the freedom was hold or present in the hands of them. And the second four lines, second stanza of the poem, thy eagle pinion is chained down at last, and growling in the lovely dust art thou. Thy minstrel had no wrath to weigh for thee save sad story of misery. And here the poet tries to say, when the poet was writing this poem, India was under British rule. English East India Company or British East India Company, and the British government ransacked India for their country's benefits. Hence, the condition of India worsened day by day. At the time of Derozio, her status of affairs was so poor that he could not find anything plausible in her. It made the poet very sad, so he asks himself, where's that glory? Where is the reverence now? And that comes in the next few lines. And the next lines, well, let me dive into the depths of the time and bring from out of the ages that have rolled a few small fragments of these wrecks sublime, which human eye may never more behold, and let the garden of my labor be, my fallen country, one kind wish for thee. So here the writer tries to say that uh, minstrel, the India was chained by the Britishers, and they tries to clipped India like which is chained by the Britishers, The poet sees India as an eagle, the monarch of the birds. In the previous section, he has compared it to goddess and having a beautiful halo circling her forehead. Such a shift in comparison signifies that the poet is now focusing on the worldly aspects of his country. The poet visualizes that thy country wings are clipped. That's why it is growling in the dust. It signifies that the British rulers had closed all the channels of improvement in India. And by thy minstrel, and here the word which is used, thy minstrel, this is one of the word which is used in the second stanza. The poet refers to himself. He says that he has no flowers to wave or wreath or garland for her motherland. It's a reference to the scarcity of resources in his country due to the drainage of wealth. He has only the sad story of his motherland to compose an elegy or condolence. So, in the last few lines, Derozio, the poet, tries to, say resolution to save the country from all kinds of deprivation and deterioration. He wants to dive into the depths of history. There he can find the long lost history of the country. The glorious of the past of the country's condition contains the materials for future improvement. The British rulers tried to demon it for colonizing the mind of the Indians, destroying the confidence in native culture and history. Colonizers can control the colonized for a long time. The poet stands strongly against that, which you can find out in this poem. Through this poem, Derozio tries to, say one thing. His aim to spread historical consciousness among Indians. He resorts to his motherland to wish him luck. If he succeeds, he wants nothing in return from this country. And in totally, I just wanted to say in few words what exactly Derozio tries to say here. He had that kind of wish, the country's glorification, as it was treated as a deity before the independence. The same kind of situation has to be recreated in India. And that kind of historical consciousness he wants to bring among all the natives of India, and he wants to arise a kind of patriotism in the heart of all the Indians. That's his wish, and this is the gist of the whole poem. What I say. Coming to the structural form of this poem, of course, any poet for that matter, he or she having their own structure before they put into the poetical form. And here you can come across Petrarchan sonnet, and which you can see contains two sections. The first section is in octave, and the following section is in a sisted. In the octave containing 8 lines, the poet presents a problem, which is the condition of his motherland under British rule. And the sisted, having 6 lines, voices the poet's resolution. The rhyme scheme of first 8 lines is A B A B A B C C, and the next 6 lines are D E D E F F. This is the rhyme scheme. The poet is composed in iambic pentameter. Each line in the poem contains 5 feet. The stress falls on the second syllabus of each foot. There is only one variation in the first line of the poem. It is in iambic tetrameter. The metrical composition of the poem suggests its inclination to the conventions of the European Renaissance in arts. It's also suggestive of the poet's intention at the time of writing this poem. Okay, this is what the structure of the poem what he has brought. Of course, it is rich in the use of literary devices. What I can concentrate on this part. Literary devices. What exactly I mean here is it being a sonnet encompasses several figurative techniques to make the poet's idea compelling into contemporary readers. Likewise, in the first line of the poem, Derozio uses a first strophe as he invokes the spirit of his motherland in the poem. The poet uses bro to signify the head of the deity which is in the poem, his motherland. It is the use of synecdoche. It also make another point clear. The poet uses personification to compare India to a goddess. Likewise, in the third line, there is an inversion. In the fourth line, the poet asks a rhetorical question. The poet resorts to the metaphor of eagle. He compares India to an eagle chained down by the colonial rulers, that is Britishers. There is another metaphor of the sea in the phrase depths of time, small fragments, such. And of course, Rex is another instance where Derozio uses a metaphor. In the last line, the poet again uses an apostrophe. And this is what exactly the structural form of the poem. Dear students, I try to, present the whole poem with some images and of course in the classroom the way how we can write up the things on the board and show it each and every line and underline. It's quite difficult to present in the online mode, but I tried my best to give all the hints of the poem here. One thing you should remember, that is the condition of the India before the independence, before the entry of the Britishers, before they take up the the entire rule, entire power of the country in their hands, and treating us as slaves in their hands. And how was the condition and how it turned during the British rules, and what was the wish of Derozio, and how can we bring this poem as the poem of relevancy while talking about, because any work of art which is treated as the classic, it never have the death. Usually our teachers used to say this, and how always they are alive, and how they always feel very fresh, and how can we bring it as the relevancy of the poem here is, of course, India got freedom in 1947, and we are now in the 21st century. The wish of not only Henry Derozio, all the nationalists for that matter, and like Tagore and even Derozio and Bankim Chandra Chatterjee and many great writers of India, and their wish was, and of course during the freedom movement, their words, pen is mightier than the sword. That's how they use the pen, the ink. They spread the patriotism in the hearts of all the Indians, and they have taken a great the task to in creation of the patriotic note in the hearts of the Indians, and that's how they succeeded in that. And we have to focus on the thing that whether we have really fulfilled the dreams of all these writers for that matter. And this is the thing what we need to focus on. And with these words I conclude. Thank you so much.